guys, my name is Brandon, and welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find the latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find live video of the concerts that we get. Unfortunately, there isn't too much in the pipeline as of this month, but next month, in March, it should be picking up. So I'm really excited for that. Also, if you enjoy what I do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure to hit that like button as well. If you want to keep up with what we do here at Audio Addiction, that would be greatly appreciated. Also shows us what you guys like and what you guys don't like. So hopefully you guys will be excited for that. But I'm getting away from myself tonight. We're gonna be talking about Ocean Grove's new record, Rhapsody Tapes. So I've heard about this band for a little bit of time. I like their last record a lot. I thought it was something unique and something different, and I love their label Unified out of Australia. I think they always have like these bands are so eclectic and stuff like that. So whoever does the scouting for those bands in Australia, keep up the good work because man, they keep coming out with some really fresh bands and some really exciting things to kind of rejuvenate the scene. So not only probably in Australia but also here in the States, at least for me. But I really enjoy, you know, this band a lot, and I think their sound is super eclectic to what they do, and I don't feel like you would be I don't feel like you would misconstrue this band with any other band. And with that being said, I think that that is a huge thing. Like for a band to not particularly sound like any other band. So, um, this is obviously the follow up to I think they had an EP out a few years back now at this point. And they definitely, took this thing and just went with it. I think it is definitely probably one of the most unique albums of 2017 so far, and I would bet to say it's going to be the most unique album of 2017 without a doubt, at least in my opinion. I think they tried a lot of crazy stuff that I wouldn't particularly think would fit very well, but after a few listens, I feel like they just kind of nailed it home for me and just, gave, took me and just took me on a journey essentially. So, let's get into the first track, which is What I Love About a Natural Woman. I think this has a very odd intro, very out there, like just wow, just wild stuff. But I really think it's cool at the same time because again, getting back to how unique they are, I think it's just something that I've come to expect from Ocean Grove is just that they're very unique, they're very just out of the ordinary, and I think that's what makes this album really great. I also enjoy their rapping parts. Obviously, they're very new metal influenced, so that's definitely taken into account on that. But I think the rapping is really great on here. I also enjoy obviously the other vocals and stuff like that. And like I mentioned, instrumentally, it's just all over the place. It's wild, and it's what I come to expect from Ocean Grove. I also feel like this is a great opener track. I think it definitely kind of surmises the whole album in general and just how it will sound and just the types of nuances that you would get from each track and stuff like that. I feel like play out through all the tracks in the record. So we'll move on to track number two, which is Beers. This thing has a vicious beginning. Just right out the gate, you're punched in the face, man. It definitely reminds me of a typical sort of hardcore track or new metal inspired track. I definitely feel like again, it's right out the gate, right in your face. Um, I definitely love the clean vocalist. I think he definitely has this sort of unique sound to how he approaches it. Also, I like their screamer as well. I think it's again something unique and something different. It's not the atypical, like scream. I think it's more just diversified and just all over the place. And I really enjoyed this track too, just because again, it's just right out the gate. It's in your face. And I think there are a few tracks throughout this record that are heavy, but I would definitely say this is probably one of the more heavier tracks off the record, and that's why I consider it to be one of my favorites. So we'll move it on to the third track, which is Thunderdome. They had a feature on this track. I forgot to put it in, but He did a good job as well. I think he was in. I'm not entirely sure what part he was in. But I think obviously it melded very well together because for me to be able to distinctly pick it out, I think it would have been a little less obvious. I like that they kind of pick something more in the wheelhouse, that person's wheelhouse who featured. But getting back to the track, I think it's got a very odd intro with the vocals, but I still think again with it being weird, I'm not saying it in a bad terminology. I really think it's weird in the most unique way possible, and just weird because that was the first adjective that I could think about it. It's just super like just odd, but at the same time, it's great. So it's just weird in that regard. I think it definitely starts off very soft, very mellow, and then it starts to get heavier. So I definitely like that as well. That aspect to that as well, and then the instrumentals are on point. I think just overall, it's kind of like a sonic bombardment of things like guitars, drums, bass, all the layers, the production and stuff like that. You can definitely hear they spent a lot of time in that and they put a lot of effort into that as well. Just combining, different aspects of what they enjoy and putting it into tracks off the record. I think you can definitely tell a lot of their influences and what they were striving for on this record and just this track and this record in general. So we'll move on to track number 4, which is Intimate Alien. I think this was the first single that they released, and it was one of my favorite tracks, and still is my favorite track on the record. I love all the weird like guitar effects that they got going on with like delay and some like flanger. No, it's not flanger, tremolo, and stuff like that. I think that's really just wacky vibes all together. But again, super cool at the same time. It's very new metal inspired again with the heavier sort of riffs with the very odd like things in the verse with like just the guitars, the drums, the bass. But I think obviously they have honed their craft and they know what they're doing, and it definitely shows in this track as well. I think to me this is one of the more solidified tracks in terms of just band synchronicity. Um, it just feels very together. It feels like the most thought out. Obviously, it's a single, so they put a lot of time into this one. But I like the rapping style and the verses as well. Typically, I'm not the biggest fan of new metal. There are maybe a few bands here and there that I'm a fan of, but this is definitely one of the bands that I'm a fan of. That in terms of new metal that I enjoy. And I also like the delivery of the vocals. I think that goes to show with how unique both of their vocalists are. I think they both deliver in a different way that's atypical from a screamer or a singer in like either an American band or another Australian band. Um, it just feels like the delivery is very different and very cool at the same time. So I felt like that was definitely something to point out. So we'll move on to track number 5, which is "The Wrong Way." Another one of my favorite tracks. Really great, clean vocals. The delivery on this reminds me a lot of like Kurt Cobain and like grungy sort of bands. Definitely has that grunge inspired vibe to this one at least. I definitely feel like this one has a softer intro, but again, it starts off soft, but it gets stronger over time, which I enjoy. And I also like the more rock sort of vibes. I like that it's not all just new metal. It's they have branched out and they have explored different genres. So I like when bands do that. Certainly, if they're more pigeonholed to do new metal, I like when bands kind of expound upon what people think they sound like and try to add new things to it. So definitely that's something to point out. I like the guitar work slash the lead, the solos and stuff. I think it's a nice touch. I always love bands when they do that sort of layering and stuff like that. I feel like that always adds, again, ironically enough, I was gonna say layers to just the tracks in general. I feel like it adds more atmosphere, it adds more character to the whole track in general. And I like that this track features more of the clean vocalist. Um, Not saying the screamer is bad. I just think that it's cool that he had his own track in that regard. So definitely something to point out. So we'll move on to track number 6, which is "Slow Soap Soak." Wow, didn't mess that up. I thought I was definitely gonna mess that up. It's a cool kind of interlude thing. Um, but very wild at the same time, just instrumentally. It's just all over the place. Not what you expect. I mean, what you would expect from these guys, but just what you wouldn't expect in general if you don't listen to this type of music. And I like that the drums kind of got the spotlight in this track more or less than any other instrument. It just definitely highlights him as a drummer and just his overall skills. And I thought, it was clean without a doubt. So we'll move on to track number 7, which is These Boys Light Fires. This one was another single. I think this was their second single that they released. I'm loving the punchy drums. I think that's something to point out in a lot of these tracks. Drummer is really on point. I mean, I may not mention it in every synopsis on each of these tracks, but it's definitely something that I was looking forward to and something that I picked out because I did like the drums on the last record a lot. So I like that it's carrying on in that regard. I think this definitely has a very strong groove to it. I love the grungy sort of vibes again. Um, from these guys, I think they do a great job of that as well. Obviously, the wrong way and These Boys Lights Fires. I think they go hand in hand in terms of sonically sounding. But I like the both vocals, cleans and screams. I think in each regard to each vocalist, I think they both kill it. Just in a different way, obviously. But I really enjoy that, and I think the bass line kind of carries this track. But overall, definitely one of my favorites. So we'll move on to track number 8, which is When You're High, You Can Say What You Like. I like this cool kind of guitar intro. I like this sort of eerie vibes, almost. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just very odd, but cool at the same time. I know that wasn't a very good explanation, but it just has this sort of like haunting sort of feeling, but it's really cool. I love the instrumentals on this track. I think something that I would like to kind of expound upon in this part was that instrumentally it might be all over the place, but I think that's what they're known for, at least at this point in my opinion. They're just all over the place, and I think they know exactly what they want to do in terms of that and just being quote unquote wild about it. So and I also like the dark undertones of this track. I think that's a really cool path they decide to go down in this track. I hope possibly they continue that in the next album as well. And I like that this track has a groove to it as well. And I would definitely consider this one to be one of my favorites as well. So we'll move on to track number 9, which is Mr. Centipede. Um, I like the soft vocals paired with sort of the ambient guitars at the intro. Um, they have come up with some really unique and eclectic sort of sounds throughout this record, and this is obviously no different. I like the balance between the verses and the choruses, just where maybe the choruses were a little bit lighter and a little bit backed off, and the choruses kind of get fuller and just kind of pick up with that. But that's definitely something to point out. And I feel like the screamer could have backed up the clean vocalist in the chorus. I think that would have been cool, or even in the verses as well. Obviously they're kind of highlighting the clean vocalist a little bit more, but I definitely would like to see maybe like almost I wouldn't even consider a harmonization, just but a parallel between the two vocalists, and that would be really neat just to add that in that way. But really enjoyed that one as well. So we'll move on to track number 10, which is From Daylight. This one is a really cool intro. I think it kind of adds some atmosphere to the overall record. Again, I like those kind of interlude sort of tracks. I feel like they kind of bridge together some of the parts of the whole album in general. So it's cool to see kind of those gaps filled in by interludes and stuff like that. However, I would like a full track, but beggars can't be choosers. So um, I think this one's a great sort of interlude, and it kind of adds again a more flavor to the overall record. So we'll move it on to track number 11, which is Stratosphere Love. I would definitely consider this to be one of my favorites as well. I'm loving the odd guitar effects. Like I've mentioned in a lot of my reviews, guitars are something that I always pick out, and always is something that I notice throughout just being a guitar player and just playing for some time now. That's just something that I gravitate towards whenever I start listening to a record. It's kind of like more of a safe space in that regard. But the guitar riff on this is just ridiculous. Probably again one of the heaviest tracks on the record, up there with Beers, and Intimate Alien. I think those three are probably the heaviest off the record. But I think this one just is even more ridiculous than the last one. This track reminds me a lot of. This might seem like an odd sort of comparison, but it reminds me a lot of like if Beastie Boys had a heavy band backing them in that regard. I mean, that would definitely be considered a compliment because I do love Beastie Boys as well. So I think, this is cool. That's a cool comparison that I kind of drew from this track. Um, Obviously, this track brings the heavy, so I don't have to tell you about that. And then the ending on this track is just wicked. I think they should have just ended the record on this track, and my high expectations would have been ballooned. But they had to end it on kind of a odd note. But hey, that's what I expect from these guys. So the last track, like I mentioned, is Hitachi. I like this sort of ambient guitars throughout this track. I think it's kind of more like an outro as opposed to another track. And I also like the sort of different layers in production and stuff like that, and just the overall scheme of this whole track. And I think it kind of encompasses again the whole sound of the record. In that regard, just which is very odd effects and just timings and stuff like that, along with just new metal slash grunge and style guitar riffs. So I think it's again a great way to round out the record. So my pros and cons for this whole record is that wow, they did something probably, like I said, one of the most unique records I've heard this year, and probably will be this year, without a doubt. It's so eclectic in the sense that it's just wild. Like it's something I'm losing words because it's just so odd, but at the same time it's so cool, and you just want to continue listening to it and picking out all the subtle nuances of this album. So um, in that regard, they really nailed it. Some cons, um, I would say maybe the interludes, there might be maybe one or two too many. I feel like they kind of added a little bit more when maybe they shouldn't have. But other than that, I think they really did a spot on job. I think it's a great follow up to their first EP, without a doubt. And I hope these guys continue to kill it. If you have not checked out this band, I highly recommend that you check them out. It's just something that's different, something that's odd, and I think it's a nice flavor, and just something I know either people really love it or people really hate it, and I'm probably one of the people that like it more than anything. But it's just wild. I think it's definitely an album for you to just at least listen to once and be like, wow, that was really wild, but I think it was definitely creative at the same time in that regard. So, my overall rating for this record, I'm going to be giving this an 8.7 out of 10. I think it's definitely a record to give a spin and definitely check out. Go if you like it enough, definitely go pre-order it. I mean, order it because it's already out now, and definitely go support these guys. And hopefully they'll be over in the U.S. very soon. I would definitely like to see these guys live and see how they stack up to how they sound on the record and just in general. And I'm sure they're very nice dudes. So hopefully you guys enjoyed my thoughts on that. So let me know in the comments if you heard of Ocean Grove. What's your thoughts on their record as well? Do you think the same thing that I do, or do you think a little bit differently? Again, let me know in the comment section below. Definitely would like to know. And the last thing before I leave you guys, we made a new web store where you can pick up Audio Addiction merch. If you order today, tomorrow, and I believe Sunday, you order 2 items, just put in the code GET20 and you'll get 20% off if you order two items or more. So if you guys were holding out on picking up merch, definitely go check that out. We would appreciate the support immensely. All the funds go back to our channel, so that would be greatly appreciated if you could support us. So if you enjoy what I do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that like button as well. If you didn't like it, you can dislike it. But definitely let me know in the comments why you didn't think my review was good, so hopefully I can improve next time. So with that being said, my name is Brandon. and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.